it's a freak result that wasn't the worst performance in the world. There was something in the air, lightning in a bottle, and Ipswich will be able to come back from it. Surely, Sam.
Well, you've already given Maidstone a lovely mention. And if this was a National League South podcast, they would be front and centre. But we're going to shoehorn them in a little bit again because we're going to focus on Ipswich's defeat, the horrendous defeat, and what that's going to mean for them, I suppose, moving forward in their search for Premier League football.
And what I want to do as well, Sam, I want you to talk about the fact that the other two, so if we making the assumption Leicester are first position to lose it, and we're talking about a three-way shootout for one automatic promotion place, we did actually get problems for Southampton and Leeds, as we'll discuss when we look at the fixture list as well, because both their games have gone to a replay. We'll go into that, but first of all, I mean, come on, did you watch it? It was the biggest freak show of a game you'll ever see, where you look at the attack momentum graph and it's like Maidstone went in the Ipswich half twice. I must say here, fair play, the ultimate FA Cup smash and grab raid. Brilliant, I get it, heroic. But surely, let me pitch it this way, it's a freak result that wasn't the worst performance in the world. There was something in the air, lightning in a bottle, and Ipswich will be able to come back from it. Surely, Sam.
I was actually in the Millwall press room having lasagna and potato wedges, double carbs, watching that play out. And you can't not enjoy it. It was very FA Cup-y, third round, fourth round, the manner of the victory. Do you know what I mean? Like the higher position club just doing everything but not being able to score. Keeper performing heroics. Yeah, some brilliant last-ditch defending, but let's get it right. Ipswich should have won 10-2, shouldn't they? That first half, the ball clattering off the post and the bar. And I was a little, kind of preempting the headlines and the way the country was going to go mad. I am a little bit sick in my mouth when I was kind of anticipating that, just like, the FA Cup has lost quite a lot of the magic, but when those things happen, people just go to town on it, don't they? So I was a bit like, I was a bit like, this is just going to run and run and run. However, it was amazing. It was amazing for Maidstone. Incredible achievement, brilliant for them, and the manager seemed like a thoroughly likable chap. But I'm not overly bothered. I think it's people like yourself and the people that have watched Ipswich over many, many a year that will be hurt for this, like the 9-0. That's probably followed you around, hasn't it? The 9-0 at Old Trafford and such like. So it's not great because, Ipswich got huge resources in comparison and they got a good enough squad to be able to canter through that tie. But I don't see it being a massive issue. I had a little look at some of the fixtures in comparison to Southampton and Leeds. Well, Southampton in particular. So yeah, Southampton still got to play the other four in the top five away from home. So I wouldn't be too fearful about the road ahead for Ipswich, but it's how they respond now. Two difficult games, Preston and West Bromwich Albion, the next two up. And if we're talking about Southampton, we know they've got those two gimmies, if I'm allowed to call them that, Rotherham and Huddersfield on the horizon. So we could be having this conversation in a fortnight's time and Southampton could be in front of Ipswich. So it's how they bounce back, I would suggest, and going and getting a really exciting young forward to problem solve what has probably been the biggest issue, in my opinion, in the last month or so. It's not a bad way to get over that defeat.
Sam is referring to Ali Al-Hamadi, which we're going to talk about in just a second, Sam. Can I just get your take then? So if, as you and I both imagine, there's not going to be psychological wounds to this game that are then going to, manifest themselves over the next 6 weeks, what is your take on the fact that both Southampton and Leeds are going to go to a replay? So Southampton now have 5 consecutive 3-game weeks. If they win, So because they'll have a replay in week 1 in midweek in February, and Cup round 5 is in week 4 in midweek. So they would literally go through the 4 weeks of February, all 3 game weeks, and the first week of Marches as well. Leeds, I'll say, that decision to move the Norwich game forward looks very smart now, because week 3 in February, they would have clear. This is assuming that they both win. But what is definitely happening for Leeds, and this is, I feel most sorry for their fans, given where Leeds is and where the Southwest is. In the space of 5 games, they go away to Plymouth twice, Swansea, and Bristol City. So, look, I'll get comments saying, "Oh, Ben, you're an Ipswich fan. You're trying to make a silver lining out of a dark cloud here." But in terms of fixture congestion, that February looks tough for Leeds and Southampton, more so than Ipswich, especially if either of them or both win their replays.
Yeah, back to back, isn't it? Bristol City and Plymouth in the next week or so for Leeds. What surprised me the most was looking at Leeds' team sheet, to be quite frank. And there you go. I was going to say I've done a pun. I haven't, have I? I was really surprised to see how strong they went, Leeds. So whether that will give Daniel Farke a little bit of food for thought ahead of the replay, we'll have to wait and see. I think the reality is, looking at Ipswich's team and looking at Southampton's team, it was a great opportunity to rotate. I'm sure Russell Martin will do that again in the cup replay. I think that, it's the bottom of the list of priorities, isn't it? As it stands, they've got to focus on the league, the way that they've been going, and he'll be able to give the fringe players an opportunity in that game. So I don't see it hindering too much. The travel, possibly, and we know Leeds' woes away from home. That's been the difference between them having the points return of Ipswich, Southampton, and maybe beyond that if they'd have sorted their away form out. So we'll have to wait and see how it affects them. Don't see it being a massive issue. I think that Leeds have got to use the squad more than they did at the weekend. Really surprised the lack of changes there. It looked like a Championship 11 that they put out, and they weren't able to get through. And the priorities now with an extra game will surely shift to making sure everyone's had a few minutes and everyone's had a bit of rest. But just to follow up on that Southampton point from earlier about the games they've got to face, they've only had 1 win away from home against teams in the top 14. I noticed
14?
Today. Yeah, which astonished me. I think it was at Hull. So, yeah, it's 19 points from possible 21 against teams below that. So they've been
there you go,
impeccable in the games against the lesser lights, and obviously a ridiculous force at St Mary's. But in the away games thus far against the top teams in the division, or the mediocre teams in the division, not been able to get great points. So, 4 games against the top 5, I think I said it was. That's quite a tough test.
Quickly then, round this out, Sam. So Ipswich have announced the signing of Al-Hamadi. If you're not familiar, he was at Wimbledon in League 2. We think £1 million plus. We never know with fees being undisclosed. What role does a young 21 striker from League 2? What role does that player have coming into essentially a promotion race?
That's a good test for the character, isn't it? A test of his character. He plays with a lack of fear, I would suggest. He's kind of off the cuff. He's really exciting. I would say he's very similar to what I enjoyed about George Hurst early part of this season. I think it was one of the most important ingredients in that Ipswich side was having someone that could run down the middle, someone who was mobile. And I think this chap can definitely do that, run onto balls, but he's pretty good with his back to goal. He's pretty savvy, pretty clever, kind of knows the position well for someone so young, and he's incredibly exciting as well. So to wheel out kind of a thought process that I've had and maintained and carried with me for a long time now, I don't think there's a big gap between League 2 and League 1. So I think he's far too good for probably those 2 levels. So therefore, the natural step for him, or the natural level for him to be playing at right now, considering his form, is the Championship. So I don't see it as a massive gamble. I think the majority of the teams in the Championship would have looked at him and probably would have spoken to Wimbledon about his availability, what it was going to cost. Ipswich have taken the plunge. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a very, very good player, and I think he is going to bring a lot of those characteristics that has been lacking without Hurst. I'd probably say, I don't know. I don't think Hurst is as dominant, and this is rich coming from me. The Ipswich fans will be shouting at the screen, but I don't think Hurst is particularly dominant aerially, and I think that would be the case for Al-Hamadi as well.
But then, as a result, they don't put the ball up to him to win in the air. So yeah, that's something that's mitigated for that way.
Balls down the side, Al-Hamadi, brilliant, sharp, quick with and without the ball. You know, one of those. Again, the old cliche, looks rapid when he's travelling with the ball. Can take it into feet and wriggle away from people. He's really exciting, and I know they loved him at Wimbledon, and I know they were absolutely gutted with the prospect of having to let him go. But obviously, the money was too much for the club to turn down. So, really excited to see how it goes. And when you look at all the options across the divisions right now, I think he's right at the top of the list. They were looking at Gallagher, weren't they, from Blackburn with
think they still are.
Are they? Well, yeah, perfect. Go and do it if you can get the two of them. But with the utmost respect, even though Gallagher's he's probably played in the Premier League, Gallagher, and he's played hundreds of games in the Championship, in terms of the age and what they can become, and probably the goal threat now, Al-Hamadi every day in the week.